unfiltered finance.
The 7 greatest financial frauds in history. Investors can learn something from these fraud cases. Your business may not be able to cover the loans you took out to keep it afloat. Maybe your competitors are underestimating you, or your customers aren't as interested as they used to be. You've run out of options, but one is still on the table: cheat. Corporate fraud happens all the time. When it is revealed, it can have dire consequences, and when it happens to the biggest companies in the market, the consequences can be dire. The history of white-collar fraud doesn't begin with Charles Ponzi's infamous 1920s schemes, but can be traced back to the very beginnings of the businesses themselves. Here are 7 of the biggest corporate scams of the past 4 decades, many of which are lessons learned for the cautious investor. 1. Wirecard. The latest addition to a long history of corporate fraud is Wirecard, a German electronic payments company that seems to have grown steadily over the past 20 years. But all was not as it was with Wirecard, as auditors discovered a few weeks ago when they noticed an estimated $2 billion loss in Wirecard's books. Turns out the money didn't exist, and Wirecard may have falsified the financial statements the company had issued to shareholders over the years. On June 23, CEO Markus Braun was arrested. The company declared default 2 days later, and its chief executive is still missing. The only good thing about Wirecard's severe drop is the possibility that the German government will scrutinize corporate governance and is currently tightening financial regulations. 2. Luckin Coffee. Another recent scandal comes from China, where coffee company Luckin Coffee went from an initial public offering price of just over $20 in May 2019 to a high of over $50 per share in May 2019. January 2020. It was later revealed that the high-growth emerging company did not really growing. In fact, on April 2nd, an internal survey showed the company had about $310 million in revenue in 2019 selling bulk coffee vouchers to businesses contact with its president. At the same time, the company allegedly created a fictitious employee to purchase approximately $10 million worth of raw materials from suppliers. The one-of-a-kind punch sent Luckin stock to a low of $1.39 almost exactly a year since the company's IPO, and the stock is still falling as executives struggle to grab its ship. 3. Wells Fargo. While most of the frauds on this list were committed by C-suite executives, Wells Fargo's case was a little different. To be fair, it was clearly the fault of the company's superiors that Wells Fargo's employees were assigned sky-high sales targets, rising like clockwork between 2002 and 2016. But it was to hit the targets. Then, the bank employees were tricked into opening fake accounts in the customer's name. If a customer opens a savings account at a bank, the staff can also secretly open a credit card in that customer's name. Short-term profits skyrocketed from these 2 million fake accounts, but in the long run it's not worth much. Wells Fargo will pay $3 billion in fines to the Securities and Exchange Commission and the U.S. Department of Justice. And who knows when customers can fully trust the bank again. 4. Volkswagen. Governments around the world test cars to make sure they meet emissions standards. Meeting these standards can be costly for automakers, so Volkswagen came up with a clever idea. The company installed a special type of software in about 11 million cars, powered by its diesel engine to detect when those cars are being tested for broadcast and change the results. But when this so-called diesel dupe was discovered in September 2015, it turned out to be much more costly for the company than just following the rules. In the US alone, Volkswagen was forced to recall more than 80,000 vehicles and pay a fine of about $25 billion USD. As a result, CEO Martin Winterkorn has resigned and the company continues to face ongoing financial charges and litigation risk over its stock to date. 5. Enron. Voted America's most innovative company annually by Fortune magazine from 1996 to 2001, Enron catapulted the dot-com wave to superstar status and became the second largest corporation in the world. 7 in the United States, at least on paper. In fact, the company used market-based accounting to make itself appear more profitable than it really is, while hiding all the losses from the shell companies. When the truth came out, Enron stock fell from $90 per share to 65 cents in 4 months, before falling to cents per share. Enron went bankrupt on December 2, 2001. A number of Enron executives have been charged with various financial crimes, and the accounting firm Arthur Andersen has tried itself. The upside is the passage of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in 2002, which established stricter accounting rules for public companies and harsher penalties for those who violate them. 6. WorldCom. In 1997, WorldCom merged with MCI Communications to become the second largest telecommunications company in the US, but WorldCom's appetite hasn't abated. In 1999, he tried to take over Sprint in the biggest merger in history at the time. The merger was stalled by regulators. WorldCom stock froze. Bad news for CEO Bernie Ebbers, who funded his side business with more than $365 million for a loan backed by WorldCom stock. As WorldCom stock fell, Ebbers became increasingly desperate, and in 2001 he began recording the company's expenses as capital expenditures amounting to $3.8 billion. This little trick was discovered in June 2002 and the company went bankrupt in July, while Ebbers, who died in February of this year, will go to prison after serving a 25-year sentence. 7. ZBest. In 1982, 15-year-old Barry Minkow started a ZBest carpet cleaning business in his family's garage. At the age of 21, Minkow went public with his fledgling business. There's just one problem. Minkow represents over 90% of the company's clients, and he has to take money from new investors to repay old investors in a classic Ponzi scheme. He also almost got rid of it. ZBest was set to acquire its biggest competitor, KeyServe, which meant more scams and more fake customers, but it was exposed before the deal was made. ZBest, once valued at $300 million, completely collapsed just 7 months after its IPO. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe to Reaching Out top company stories and breaking news with unfiltered finance.